Okay, so I just watched a YouTube video by Healthy Addict stating that, addressing the question, are atheists smarter than believers? And addressing the fact that atheists frequently make this claim, and that, so she said a couple of things. One is that she doesn't think that they have any real reason to believe this, because they don't have a great way of really testing it. Um, and then two that the position that they haven't necessarily thought through things any better than anyone else, and they frequently would believe that they have. And then three, that she actually believes that there is no difference. So there's believing that they have not shown that they are smarter, and then also she actually believes that they're the same. Okay, so these are kind of two separate claims that are certainly related. Um, so first of all, we'll go in the opposite order, um, starting with the sort of weakest claim for us as for trying to refute them. Um, so the idea that her idea about why there was no difference, and I was disappointed to hear her go in this direction, um, was that, she knew a lot of religious people who were very intelligent, and a lot of atheists who believed a lot of stupid shit, and who don't seem really very intelligent at all. Um, I, I agree on both accounts. No problem there. The problem is the conclusion that's being drawn from this. Um, gets kind of tiring because I feel like people do this just absolutely all the time. So I was hoping I wouldn't run into it here, but that's anecdotal evidence. It does nothing to establish a correlation. Like, the claim was not every atheist will be very smart and every religious person will not be. Okay, it was not that. It was just that atheists in general will tend to be smarter. Of course, you'll find some exceptions. Um, it's like people living in China tend to be Chinese. Now, do I know some Chinese people who don't live in China? You bet. And are there probably some people living in China who are Americans? There's probably somebody living in China who was born in Suriname, right? But does that mean that Chinese people are just as likely to be Surinamese as Chinese? Or, fuck, I guess someone living in China is just as likely to be Surinamese as Chinese? No, no, that's just one case. That doesn't mean shit, okay? 10 cases like that don't mean shit. Okay, so I don't know why people continually try to refute a statistical correlation by simply appealing to specific cases. I really don't understand it. So, um, because we seem to understand in the abstract that it doesn't work, but still throw it out there when we're talking about something. So no, some atheists being stupid does not refute the idea that atheists in general may be smarter than religious people. And I'm not at the moment claiming that they are. Not yet. I probably will claim that before the video's over. But that doesn't refute the idea. And what about the idea that somebody who is an atheist, or that a religious person hasn't thought through their ideas well? They haven't really thought the question through. Is this true? Well, I don't really know how to believe a proposition. In this case, like me specifically, I would articulate it by saying, I don't believe that it is reasonable to believe that there is a God. There may be one, but I don't think that there's anything that should compel us to believe in that. Okay. That's my proposition. That belief in God is not a reasonable thing at this point. Okay? I don't know how I can believe that proposition and think that someone who looks at the same world that I do and arrives at a different conclusion could have possibly thought it through completely. To believe that I'm right, I kind of have to believe that they're wrong, and I kind of have to believe that they made an error in reasoning. It's possible that they thought about the question a lot, but I have to believe, yes, that they made a mistake, that they have not thought their position through. And this might sound a bit smug or condescending, but you need only apply, like I call the Sam Harris test. When you're what he always does when he's thinking about God or when he's talking about it. Take God out and put Zeus in. Do you believe that somebody who really believes that Zeus exists has thought the question through fully and completely? Sorry, I have to say no. I have to say no, you haven't. So why are we trying to treat Yahweh as different? And finally, what about the idea that atheists are smarter than other people? Is there a good reason to believe that or not? This is a separate claim from what we were talking about before, right? So it's possible, just first off, to have a situation where people who are more intelligent are more likely to believe a false claim. A really easy example. Take something like the Monty Hall problem or any kind of multiple choice question that people tend to get wrong. Like 2 choices, people tend to get it wrong. 85% of the people ask the Monty Hall problem get it wrong. Okay. Compare that to someone who doesn't even have enough knowledge to even read and understand what the problem is saying. Well, they'll get it right half the time just from sheer guessing, right? So you become less likely to get that right as you become more intelligent. So there's no reason that there couldn't be a God, and yet we're still less likely to believe it as we become more intelligent. So that's not that wouldn't be completely out of the question. Okay, but what about that? Well, she mentions the issue of it's difficult to have a real good way to test that, and that may be true, but that's sort of a logistic problem. Let me give you a parallel here. Do you believe people who play in the NBA are taller than people in general? Kind of seems like an obvious yes, but if asked to cite a study or to come up with a way of testing that, I mean, obviously it's not real hard to come up with a theoretical way of testing it. It may be something no one has ever really bothered testing because everybody just sort of assumed it. That was kind of where I was here. I just kind of assumed it. I mean, let's take a pilot issue, or let's not a pilot, but let's say we were just talking about like creationism. Do you really believe that people who believe in creationism, okay, are as intelligent as people who don't? Like, I would have to say that's probably a pretty clear no. Right? I don't think that one's too controversial. All right, maybe it is, but we'll say no for the moment. So automatically, we've got like the people believing in God here. Some chunk of them are creationists. We know that they're dragging the average down. Like the atheists over here, like there's no creationists there. So already, like the remaining theists are going to have to do some extra work in order to pull the average back up. So already there's a little bit of an issue here. That's at least one stupid belief that we know that these people have, some of these people have, that these people can't possibly have. So that's That's one thing. But let's actually look at it. Let's actually look at some results that have been done here. What does it mean to be smart? Well, there are different ways of quantifying it, but I think IQ sounds like as good a measure as anything. So let's see what we have here. In 2008, intelligence researcher Helmuth Nyborg examined whether IQ relates to denomination and income using representative data from the National Longitudinal Study of Youth, which includes intelligence tests on a representative selection of white American youth, where they have also replied to questions about religious belief. His results, published in the scientific journal Intelligence, demonstrated that atheists scored an average of 1.95 IQ points higher than agnostics, 3.82 points higher than liberal persuasions, and 5.89 IQ points higher than dogmatic persuasions. I could keep reading here. There are a few more studies. He co-authored a study with Richard Lynn, which found that it's compared religious belief and national IQ in 137 countries. They found that atheists scored 6 percentage points higher in IQ than non-atheists. There have also been studies with more atheistic versus less so countries. Obviously, when you're studying an entire country, there can be a lot of other variables present. So I'm okay. I'm fine with someone not impressed by such a result. Gallup surveys have found the world's poorest countries are consistently the most religious people. Let's see here. Several Gallup poll studies of the general population have shown that those with higher IQ tend not to believe in God. A study published in Social Psychology Quarterly also stated that atheism correlates with higher intelligence. Certainly among the general population, belief in God's about 90%. Among people with a BS in science, it was found to be 40%. People who are elite scientists, it was found to be 10%. So that, at least in the direction of science, is pretty compelling. Okay, so it looks like we actually have some evidence there. And it's not all that hard to find. I just searched it in Yahoo and found that. So the kind of broad perception that I and I think many others would have is, well, seems to be fairly accurate. In general, atheists probably are a little smarter than believers. Doesn't mean any specific atheist is smarter than any specific believer, and it doesn't even make it all that necessarily likely that a randomly chosen atheist will be smarter than a randomly chosen believer. But in general, there is a tendency for atheists to be a little bit smarter. I think the real issue here is not about atheists being smarter. It's about the fact that seems like it really makes you sound like an asshole to say that. Now, if your argument is that maybe this isn't necessarily the best PR and that it's not really, you're not really putting your best foot forward to brag about how smart you are, I'll go along with that. I don't believe that just because something's true, we need to shout it at the top of our lungs. But yeah, I definitely don't see denying it. So, well, that's where we are. Take care.